What up, everybody? It's Favi from Tectonic Takes. I'm here with your usual co-host, Ivan, and we have a very special guest today. Today, we have Reno standout, San Jose Earthquakes player, Kevin Partida. What's up, man? How you doing?
How's it going? Glad to be here.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. We're really appreciative of you coming on and kind of letting us interview you. We appreciate this. This year has been a little tough with everything, so thank you for your time.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Yeah, so you recently, I guess let's talk a little bit right into it. You recently got a penalty for Reno, and you converted it. I mean, do you usually take penalties, or was it kind of like, hey, man, you got this for us, you're going to take it?
Yeah, I think in college and stuff, I was pretty consistent being the penalty taker. Obviously, at the professional level, it's different. But, yeah, I'm usually the number 2 for our pens, and at that time, Corey Herzog had been subbed off, so I knew I was going to be the one taking it. And yeah, I mean, luckily it ended up being a pretty important goal for us in terms of being able to get out of there with a point that day.
That's awesome, man. I just want to start off with that because I thought that was a pretty cool thing. I mean, you get your pen, you're going to take it. So that's what's up. Ivan's going to go over a little bit of your highlights and then a little bit of your stats, and then he'll ask some questions too.
Cool.
All right, so in this current season, which has been a weird season for every league in the world, you have 13 appearances for Reno with 1 goal and assist. Yeah, I believe that goal was the aforementioned penalty. And then 2019, you had 13 appearances and 1 assist for Reno, as well as an appearance for San Jose. 2018, you had 10 appearances, 1 goal and 1 assist for Reno. I believe these are all league stats. I'm not sure about U.S. Open Cup or anything. And then 4 appearances for San Jose. And then prior to that, you spent the 2013 through 2017 seasons with the UNLV Rebels. You had 6 goals and 80 appearances. You are 25 years old, 1995 club, right?
Yeah, we're all from 95, so.
Quarter century.
Yeah. You can play as a right back, is it, or left back?
Yeah, well, right back that 1 year at the Quakes, and coming out of college, some people try to change me.
Okay. Or central midfielder, and you were selected number 58 overall in the 2018 Super Draft. So you living your dream. You've played in MLS. You're playing in USL. You're getting more and more appearances, and as the USL continues to improve, it continues to be a great place to play, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, obviously this year's been different for everybody. I think on a personal level, it was a little bit even more difficult just because a year-long ACL rehab cut into the second half of my rookie year and the first half of my second season, and then so expecting to play a full year finally, and really being motivated to put together 34 appearances and performing as best as possible. Then it turned into 15 or whatever games it is again. But I mean, we're in a good spot right now for sure, and I think in my head right now I'm just thinking playoffs is gonna be a big factor for us, and on a personal level for sure as well. I think it'll be a good stage.
Awesome. I mean, that's great. I mean, getting on the field 34 times in the middle of a season like this is a great goal to have. I mean, going through it with no injuries is also a great goal to have. But you're excelling. You're doing great. At Reno, you guys are doing an awesome job contending for the first place Supporter Shield kind of trophy that you guys have if they do it, and getting into the playoffs with home field advantage. I know before we were on air, you told me a little bit that you guys might have fans out there. Are you really excited for that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially right at this point, like I mentioned, to not have played with fans at all this year, and then to find out that it's a possibility for our playoff games, and in the position that we're in with being top of the league right now, and possibly being able to host all the way through the USL final if we're able to play well enough to reach it. I think there's definitely, a little added motivation there.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an interesting situation there where you are split up into eight different groups. So right now in the short term, you're focusing on the 3 or 4 opponents that you have in your group. Some groups have 4 teams, some groups have 5 teams. But because there's seeding at stake for the playoffs, you also have to keep an eye out on all these teams that you're not getting the opportunities to play against that you
right.
normally would throughout a USL season. So that is definitely tricky. And just to update some of our listeners who maybe don't follow USL as intently as we do, Reno currently has 32 points, which puts them atop of their group, which consists of the northern and northwestern clubs in the USL Championship League. They're followed by Sacramento Republic, 27 points, and those two have a very comfortable lead over Tacoma Defiance, formerly Sounders 2, with 11 points, and Portland Timbers 2 with 9 points. So it definitely is seemed like a race between you and Sacramento Republic throughout most of the season.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think we got a little. Sacramento had a couple more hiccups than us, so I think that kind of shows in terms of the standings at this point. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, in terms of uh playoffs, just qualifying for playoffs, I think well we've already clinched and we felt comfortable along the way, but it was a big point for us to not get comfortable in the sense that
Right.
we were doing well in our division, and then at a certain point, um I guess we took it game by game, but then later realized that we were in, like I mentioned before, we're in a good position to have the most points in maybe in our entire conference or in the entire league,
Right.
and so we started striving for that in order to try and host as many playoff games as we could.
Yeah. So speaking on kind of like the context of fans in Sparks and Reno, when you were growing up, were there a lot of fans of soccer in Sparks or Reno?
Yeah, I think I went through, I guess, two different versions of youth soccer here. Reno Sparks is pretty much, I would say, the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
they're basically connected. I mean, we were just talking. You've been here, so you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think growing up, I mean, the soccer community here is, I mean, Reno's not too big, but the soccer community is definitely, I guess, really, really passionate. I think, at a early age, you see 4 or 5 year olds already playing. The parks
Right.
are filled every weekend, and that goes through. Usually, you begin, I guess, in the Mexican league, as at least for me,
Yeah.
and then I transitioned into club soccer, which allowed us to go to more tournaments and
Yeah.
start kind of focus on hoping to get scouted for college and those kinds of things. And at that point, I think I think we definitely changed in this city a lot in the last I guess 10 or so years, in the sense that more and more people are branching out and finding opportunities,
Yeah.
and I think that's important, and definitely makes me happy for the city that I grew up in.
Right.
Yeah.
My brother, he is currently a goalkeeper at San Francisco State University. When he did youth soccer, we're from the Bay Area. I remember we went to at least one tournament in Carson City, so we know that we're familiar with Northern Nevada, and it definitely is a great, so many different soccer complexes and
Right.
places for soccer fans and soccer players to grow and develop. And just for another additional context, Sparks currently has a population of about 105,000 people just east of Reno. So it's kind of like how Daly City is right connected to San Francisco. It's its own city, and it's kind of a medium-sized city, but it's right in that same metro area.
Yeah. I would say Sparks is basically Reno, though. It's kind of like the suburb that Reno's the downtown area, right, Kevin? You would say that?
Yeah, I think at first I just used to, I don't know, it was the same to me, but yeah, I think now meeting people that come, or people that are new to the city, I think that's a good way to describe it in terms of it being maybe a little bit of the suburb.
Yeah, and then I guess how has the area changed? I know you went to UNLV for college for about I think 4 years, right? And then how has the area changed the last 10 years? I guess coming back to it, have you seen the area change?
Yeah, I noticed it more towards Reno. I think the mayor is really focused on developing a lot of new businesses. So there's definitely been a lot of construction in the last couple of years, and I guess it's being a little bit more modernized,
Yeah.
as well as new corporations that are coming here to bringing their businesses or their factories here. So
Right.
we're getting a lot of people from California as well, and I think it's just growing in general.
That's awesome.
Right. So, growing up, what clubs and leagues did you follow and support the most, or in general?
Really early, I followed the Mexican League the most, and
Mhm.
Okay.
I just tagged along to being a Cruz Azul fan, which my dad was a fan of. And yeah, I think that was my childhood team. I loved almost all the players. Usually my idols were from that team, and the guys that I looked up to. And then as I started to get older, I definitely followed the European teams a little bit more. I became a Chelsea fan
Okay.
in after the Champions League final. They lost in penalties to Man United, and obviously, as I think a lot of people did, I really looked up to Ronaldinho when he was at Barcelona as well.
Oh, that's what's up.
Sweet. Those are good choices. I'm a Chivas de Guadalajara fan, so at least one thing in common, we're rivals of America.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So it's safe to say that your dad's a pretty big fan of the Mexican League, then, right?
Yeah, he's followed Cruz Azul pretty much his whole life. I think it's funny because now, in current times, it's known a little bit as a club that as big as it is and popular as it is, it hasn't had the success
Hmm.
that it should.
Yeah.
And they definitely underachieved a lot in the last couple of years. But when he first became a fan, they were the powerhouse, and they had
Right.
won, I think, like 7 or 8 titles in the last 10 years. So I think that's when he obviously became a fan, and he's stuck with them since.
Yeah. And then so basically when Matias Almeida came to play or to coach for the Quakes, he definitely knew who that was then, right?
Yeah, all my family definitely knew. All my, you know, obviously being Mexican, all my
Right.
friends and family that I knew that followed the Mexican League as well, were aware of it being something pretty special to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, there must have been jitters all around, right? You're like, oh man, this is actually someone people know, right? And that kind of brought your level up a little bit, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think for a guy being Mexican, but having gone through the soccer landscape in the U.S., it's a little bit different. But
Right.
yeah, recognizing his name and obviously watching him win titles and
Right.
Champions League, CONCACAF Champions Leagues. Yeah, I mean, I knew who he was for sure, and I knew that I was going to be in for playing for somebody who I guess knew what it took to
Right.
be an elite player. So that was really exciting for me.
Was it a point that you were just like, or how did it go down? Like, how did you know you were getting, I guess, called up in a sense?
Well, I was already on the team at I was with the Quakes at that time, and I think it was at the end of 2018 when he came and spoke to us. I think
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure some of us had already found out somehow. and
Yeah.
and no, I mean, we were just excited to know that we were gonna get to work with someone who had a history of success for sure.
That's awesome.
Right. So you already addressed this, your preferred position between right back and center back. I mean, not center back, central midfielder. That was sort of a metamorphosis has occurred throughout your career. But I'm curious, is there some sort of secret position? Like maybe if you're playing a pickup game with friends and family, you're like, screw it, I want to be this position that you enjoy playing occasionally?
Yeah, I think. Well, I grew up really being like a forward, scoring a lot of goals, and even played. I was a winger in college up until like junior, senior year,
Oh wow.
and it's kind of like a family joke that like slowly I've I've been put into more and more defensive positions and pushed further back on the field. Obviously, I think it's helped me. The fact that, I was an offensive player early, I think it's helped me in recognizing things and
Right.
and a little bit of technique as well. But I mean, in terms of when I play for fun, I for sure want to be up top more than anything, either
Right.
playing as a 10 or playing forward. And I think honestly, part of it just comes with the fact that I'm still trying to improve. So even though I still get, as a player in my career, I'm more of a midfielder and sometimes more of a defensive midfielder. When I get the chance, I'm just like, all right, I got to go up there and kind of I still try to keep those tools in my toolbox to be able to still,
Right.
stay sharp, I guess, in terms of trickery and finishing, those kinds of things for sure.
Okay. So, talking about kind of your positions, let's go straight into talking to your time at Reno. You're playing with an electric group of guys, right? Including Yones Boudadi, who is a Moroccan youth national team player, and Aritan Stady, who has 9 senior caps for Curaçao. How was it playing with them? Curacao, sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think early on, I definitely like playing with players, who I guess have been through. It's a little bit different when you get to a place, and there's going to be players that have gone through different processes. Here in the U.S. we have the college system before.
Right.
Obviously, it's changing a little bit, but for the most part, guys are coming out of college, and then so being with guys that come with a European background, and kind of know what the professional level is like at an earlier age.
Yeah.
It's definitely fun for me. I respect those guys for sure, and to be honest, I feel like they know what it takes to be a professional early on, and I kind of gravitate towards that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. How is it like playing without fans due to this current situation we are in? And do you feel that USL Championship or the USL system has done everything in their power to protect their players and employees?
Yeah, I think early on we were just excited to be playing again, after the time that we had to spend off. But I think a couple weeks into or a few games in, I think everybody felt I guess that space where you're not getting fans every game, and
Right.
the motivation might be a little bit different. But it definitely has its pros and cons in terms of away games and home games. But in terms of the protocols, yeah, I think as a team, and which obviously I would know the most about, I think we've done well. Obviously nothing's ever going to be perfect, but
Right.
we've done well enough to where we've had one game postponed only,
Yeah.
and I think throughout the league, which the protocols are obviously league wide. So yeah, I mean, definitely been successful in my opinion.
Yeah. So what is your favorite aspect of playing under Ian Russell, and what does he bring differently from other coaches?
At this point, I think me and Ian have a good enough relationship where I know what he wants, so that that comfort level definitely makes it easier, and we're able to speak about specifics in terms of on the field. And I think one thing that everybody knows about him is that's played for him, is that he's definitely a winner.
Right.
As you can see by the results that he's produced in the last in his 4 years as coach for Reno. So I think that part really I gravitate towards as well. Just the idea that no matter what goes wrong, what goes right, or tactics, this and that, you're gonna work on things. But there's a mentality that he understands, and it's kind of gritty,
Yeah.
and I think that like I can relate to as well. So I think that's one of my favorite parts.
Okay.
Has playing down in Reno felt much different than playing in Earthquakes? Or if you want, you can go into some of the similarities and differences of how like the mood might be around training or training schedules, preparation for games, if you'd like.
Yeah, I think obviously you're playing for two different coaches, so sessions
Mm-hmm.
are always going to be different. The resources between an MLS team and a USL team will always be different. But I think the systems were different for a couple years. right now in this year, I think we're very similar in terms of I don't know what the Quakes are doing necessarily in terms of training sessions, but if they're what it was like when I was there the year before, I think they're similar in terms of intensity and
Yeah.
it now being with playing the same system even more so in terms of the tactics. So yeah, I think, and then on the other side, I think obviously it's no secret that MLS team and and the USL team are gonna be different, but yeah, I think there's definitely some similarities there.
Okay. And then since this is a Quakes podcast, let's talk a little bit about the Quakes as well. What is your favorite Quakes moment? This can be off the field or off the field.
I mean, on the field, I would assume I would say for sure my debut. I
Yeah.
think, it's definitely something I dreamed of as a kid, and I even I don't think many people know this, but I actually did grow up a Quakes fan. So,
Oh, wow.
like from the beginning, it was pretty special to me. My club coach was from San Jose, so when we would travel for tournaments, we would catch games when we could. And then at that point, being the most local team to me,
Right.
being in Reno, it was the team that I followed throughout college and all that. So the debut obviously didn't go as well as I had hoped. That year was tough, but looking back on it, it was for sure like a special moment to kind of feel like you've reached one of your goals.
Right. And just kind of, do you think that area, the Quakes have a good firm grasp on like type of like outreach? Do you think there's a lot of Quakes fans out there, or is it more of like you were just lucky you had a coach from San Jose?
I think at that time it was for sure more so that I had a coach that I guess had a I guess a relationship with the team.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, obviously growing up, I followed the Mexican League a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's kind of the opposite. Obviously, like my
Yeah.
family and friends sit down and watch the Mexican League, and I'm more interested in watching whatever MLS game is on. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So, did you during your time with the San Jose Earthquakes? Who did you enjoy spending time outside of practice or games with in particular?
Yeah. Well, I came in with 3 or 4 other guys my rookie year, so it was
Mm-hmm.
uh that year me, Mo Chow, Paul Marie, and Danny Musovsky were draft picks,
Mm-hmm.
and Eric Calvillo had just been signed that year as well. So I think naturally you just kind of start to spend the most time together
Right.
with each other, just being all new, and then me and Eric became roommates for the 2 years that I was there. So, and then Paul Marie my second year as well. So those are the guys that I had a closer relationship with, and I still talk to a lot.
Yeah, Eric came on the podcast and he said your transfer out was the one that hurt him the most. So that dude
Yeah,
misses you.
Yeah.
yeah, we stay in touch. We stay in touch though. I know he
That's good.
misses me.
Yeah. Did you guys? I'm guessing the three of you when Paul Marie was there, and then also you and Eric when you two lived together. Did you have any sort of like traditions, or like maybe that when you didn't have a game that day or after practice or something, you play FIFA or anything you guys enjoyed doing?
For the most part, we just relaxed. I think
Mm-hmm.
depending on the weather, we would hang out outside in our backyard a little bit. Uh, Paul Marie also had a dog, so we
Yeah.
spent a lot of time taking his dog on trips, whatever trip he was taking his dog on. Me and Eric would kind of just tag along, so that was that was a little bit of it.
Yeah, dogs are like the fourth roommate in that scenario.
Yeah, his is wild too, so it was a handful.
Oh yeah, I bet. I always tell my girlfriend, "Is like, hey, you like the idea of having a dog when you don't have a dog, but trust
Right.
me, like it's gonna be a very big responsibility."
Yeah.
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 So what, like, I know those guys you hung out with the most. Like, what are your thoughts on the recent incorporation of those guys? I mean, those guys are getting good minutes in, and you saw them firsthand kind of grow and as people. What do you think of that?
Yeah, particularly Eric Cavillo from your draft class, and then also recent young players such as Cade Cowell and Tanner Beeson, for example.
Yeah, I mean, me and Eric are close, so I always, wished him a lot of success. I think, um, he as I mentioned about different routes that players take, he was able to sign at the age of 18 to the Cosmos and
Yeah.
had gone through the youth national team setup. So I think he had a little bit of more, I guess, a sense of being a professional player at an earlier age and had already been through some experiences. While I had just been through college, which to be honest is very different.
Right.
But I mean, I always thought he had, he was there and started his career early for a reason. He's very technical and I always believed he could get the job done. So to see him starting to get more minutes is, I'm definitely happy for him. I think Tanner Beeson I actually didn't get to meet. He's this is his rookie year and
Mm-hmm.
I'm here this year. So and Cade Cowell, I think obviously I probably share the same opinion of him as most do, where I just think he has no ceiling
Right.
and just he's such a great kid that to know him personally is honestly like almost an honor. You know what I mean? To know it just makes you're just naturally happy for the guy that
Yeah.
because he works so hard, he's so good, and he's so humble that you wish him all the success in the world.
Yeah, I did mention Tanner Beeson because I knew your 2 times at San Jose Earthquakes didn't overlap, but he also came through the super draft like you did, so it was a similar trajectory. And another word on Cade Cowell, I still have to remind myself that he's only 16 years old. So,
Right.
like, he's practicing, he's playing games, and then maybe he's still doing his math homework or something. But, like, he's a very talented player, and it is exciting to have someone come through San Jose Earthquakes like him from the Turlock or Sarah's area, and he played for some of the youth teams in Pleasanton. So he's a San Jose Earthquake product, Bay Area product through and through. So players that, whether they're still on the team or whether they are no longer under contract with San Jose Earthquakes like you, like it is very good to see players like you guys get these opportunities and making the most of them.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Quakes have done well with Cade for sure, and I think it just shows a little bit of a blueprint of what could be coming for the club and yeah, just touching a little bit back on draft picks. I mean, it's definitely a good sign for the club and for the players when you get opportunities early on in your rookie year. And so I mean, and then especially guys who are taking advantage, like I mean Tanner did great this last game.
Right.
So I think it's positive for both the club and the players individually.
I agree.
Yeah. Do you think Reno or Vegas Lights can make the jump to the MLS expansion if we were to continue? So similar to Sacramento Republic, it would be cool to see an I-80 derby in the MLS, right?
Yeah, I mean we know how MLS works. I don't know the ins and outs of the
Yeah.
club's finances and the other things that that matter when it comes to bidding for an MLS franchise. So, but yeah, I mean, me being from a Nevadan, just in general, I would definitely be excited to see an MLS team in Vegas or in
Yeah.
Reno for sure.
And
Yeah,
then,
I think Vegas in particular has been experiencing a growth in sports across the board with the events such as the NBA Summer League and the NFL Draft. The Raiders recently relocating there, and then the recent teams such as the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA and the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL. It feels like if there's 30 teams planned for MLS once the current 4 expansion teams join Austin, Charlotte, St. Louis, and Sacramento. Nevada could be in consideration there, so it is an exciting thing to think about.
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago it seemed like there was a little bit of a hesitance in terms of bringing sports to Vegas. I'm not sure why exactly. Sometimes because of the heat, sometimes
right.
just because of the idea that I have about this city. But I mean, yeah, you're right about it growing, and I mean that would be really exciting to see an MLS team in Vegas.
Well, the Nevada secret's out of the bag. All the Californians are moving there. So I
Yeah,
mean, we're gonna see sports come there no matter what, because all the people moving to Nevada, either if it's Las Vegas, Henderson, Reno, Sparks, basically Carson City, any city is gonna see more influx because just the people, right?
right.
Um, do you have any World Cup, games or any favorite World Cup games or memory? Could it be U.S. men's related or Mexico for your family or involving another team, Kevin?
Uh, when I was young, I think I for sure followed Mexico the most. If I were to say I have a memory, maybe not exactly one in mind right now. I think obviously this last World Cup, beating Germany was big for
Oh
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And but at the same time, I think maybe I share in the feeling that if the World Cup comes around, we're very hopeful, and we end up in the same position every year. So and then
Yeah.
as I've gotten older in these last years, the more I play and am able to further my career, I think I just really enjoy watching the most elite teams. So watching France and Belgium this last World Cup were really fun, and the teams that play the best for sure, and watching the top players in the world.
Do you try to
Yeah.
take away things from those games? Like, do you watch right backs and left backs that are the best in the world and kind of see what they do differently from you? What do you take away during those games?
Scoring
For,
bangers like Pavard.
yeah, for sure. I think sometimes, well, most of the time, I try to specifically watch the guy in my position, obviously
Right.
playing whoever's playing holding mid at that time or anywhere in the midfield really. And then obviously sometimes you get carried away by just being a fan, obviously. But then if I have time, or for example this quarantine, I had a bunch of time to go back and rewatch World Cup games. And yeah,
Oh,
and in those moments I really do try and really really focus on the guys playing in my role.
yeah, that's very true. During this quarantine, particularly the first few months, the FIFA YouTube channel was uploading whole games of past World Cups, and it was definitely something that kept me occupied for a bit.
Yeah, I looked forward to those every time they would premiere, and I would watch those every time it came out. And I noticed a big difference too between watching a 2002, 2006 World Cup final with Zidane and those guys just being like completely free, and then nowadays, 2018, everything's so structured, so
Yeah.
so tactical, and a lot more like,
Analytics and
I don't
stuff.
know, team focused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically about Mexico this last World Cup, that win against Germany was huge. And then after they beat South Korea, I was thinking, wow, this could be the year, El Quinto Partido, because all they had to do was to win or draw against Sweden. And then they would face Switzerland in the round of 16, which Switzerland are a good team too, but you'd prefer to play them instead of Brazil. And then Sweden, they managed to beat Mexico. They won the whole group. And then unfortunately, that set up Mexico against Brazil again, which
Right.
the rest of the story, another round of 16. But still, I think both for Mexico and the United States, Mexico with players like Irving Lozano, and I think Raul Jimenez, if he keeps playing like this, he could be around for another World Cup. And then USA have so many talented youngsters that there's a lot to look forward to in this upcoming cycle.
Yeah, the generations are definitely, I think, special ones. These ones that we're in right now. So I mean, for sure, exciting.
Yeah, and then Kevin, kind of going back to you watching the players at the best, kind of doing their role. What do you think you can improve on to try to do your role better in at Reno or in any future clubs?
Yeah, I think throughout the years I've been able to establish myself as definitely a guy with a lot of work ethic on the pitch, and that covers a lot of ground, and is pretty disciplined on the defensive side. And then um, I think one thing I've always tried to work on, and I try to not lose sight of, is being a complete midfielder, in the sense that
Okay.
I should be able to play a final ball in the final third, or be able to finish a goal when those opportunities come. So
All
Yeah,
right.
that makes sense. I do want to touch on this because I recently moved to San Diego last year. Prior to that, I lived in the Bay Area my whole life. But it turns out I moved at an interesting time in the soccer perspective because you had an opportunity to play against San Diego Loyal in a preseason friendly in this year when it was their first season in USL Championship. So what does the USL Championship expanding into a relatively bigger market like San Diego add to the league? And as along with having a head coach like Landon Donovan, one of the most recognizable names in U.S. soccer history.
yeah, I mean, I think you're right in terms of, San Diego is a big market, so um, I think it's important that they fill the gaps. You know what I mean? And uh, as the years have gone by, and I kind of reflect on how my career happened, I think there weren't as many opportunities being from a smaller city and
Right.
in Nevada, in a state that doesn't have any academies or any of that. So for the USL to be expanding as much as possible, um, obviously there's a side to it in terms of first team and everything that it brings in that sense. But my thought always goes to there being more opportunities for players and in I guess all areas around the country.
You're right. That's really cool. And while MLS, it does seem to be hitting its carrying capacity in terms of expansion, USL continues to grow, and maybe some of the markets that might not have an MLS club in their future, they can still find a home in USL as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then Kevin, talking a little bit about USL, was there anything that like kind of shocked you about USL? Was there any team that just had about like a whole bunch of fans that you were not expecting, or like the hardest place to play at?
No, I think in terms of fans, I think for sure it's when you get obviously you're not playing in a packed stadium week in and week out. So when you do get those games, I think you do feel a little bit more motivation. When you go to New Mexico or other sometimes Vegas or Sacramento, when you know that they're gonna have a packed stadium, it's
Right.
they're definitely fun to play in. And then obviously you get on the field, you get every now and then there's a player that you face and that they're especially nowadays when they're young, you just know that they're set up for big things in the future.
Yeah, and then I mean, I guess playing Sacramento, since they're kind of gonna be an MLS squad, does that elevate your guys' game to kind of play them at a higher level, so that maybe some scouts can kind of take a look at you and be like, hey, like these guys are playing, an expansion team that's a really good level right now?
Yeah, I think maybe we don't think about that so much as before the game. You just kind of week in and week out, you just prepare for the next opponent, really. But um, yeah, I think obviously maybe some guys in their heads, they're maybe in the back of their mind, it's they're aware that if you put in a decent enough performance and the club there is looking to fill their roster with some USL players,
Yeah.
then there's that opportunity.
And then, do you have a dream club that you eventually want to play for? Like Eric was like, he wanted to play for Barcelona, things like something like that. Is there any club that you would eventually like to play for?
I would probably say playing for any of my childhood teams would really, I mean, I don't know, it would be unbelievable, so whether it was getting to be in Mexico and play for Cruz Azul, or I follow Chelsea obviously, so if that ever happened, I mean, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be like living a dream.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I do want to get your thoughts because yeah, even just like a week ago, it felt like a totally dark cloud was looming over San Jose Earthquakes. But we do get to talk to you about coming off the heels of a 2-1 victory over LAFC. What was your initial thoughts when you either were watching the game or if you got that notification about that result?
Yeah, I mean, MLS really makes it difficult to watch games, man. I don't know what's up with that, but I'm 4 hours away, and ESPN Plus says I'm blocked from watching
Oh
the
What?
Quakes game.
no.
And
That's crazy.
obviously, the Quakes being my team, I'm trying to watch every game. So, but yeah, I mean, if it was big for them for sure, you could see it with the content that you see in the celebrations and how much it meant to the club. And I know the
Right.
guys have been as obviously people have their opinions, but just knowing a lot of the guys and knowing the club and knowing the staff, and I know they've been working their asses off, and really I've been really committed to turning the ship around. So I think that was a big moment for them, and obviously hope that it's just the beginning of of a couple more steps.
Right.
Yeah, as fans, we see the games, but we don't see what happens before the game, what happens after the game, and what happens during practice. So it can be easy to see, like, say if you're going on a bad run, like what the heck are they doing when they're not playing games? How are they preparing? But whether you're at the top or the bottom of the league, like you're still working as hard as everyone else, and I think this is definitely a huge win for the Quakes.
Yeah, definitely.
And then being an affiliate club for the Quakes, was there any rumblings about like, oh man, these guys do not look good in your guys' locker room, or do you guys not pay attention to them at all, or how did it kind of go down this latest slide from the Quakes?
I mean, in terms, I can't speak for what other guys feel, or I'm sure there's, when you come join Reno, you know that they're the Quakes affiliate. So I think part of the reason you join the club is to hope to move up, obviously, and have that opportunity if you put together enough good performances. But personally, I mean, I just followed them, just hoping they would win, not really thinking a whole lot about how it affected my career, especially.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So those are the questions that we have prepared, but we have a slew of fan questions from Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit for you. And before we get into them, I want to thank everyone who sent in a question in previous podcasts, but also this podcast when we have the opportunity to speak to Kevin. It means a lot to us, and I'm sure it means a lot to you, Kevin, to know that there's a lot of San Jose Earthquakes fans who are still interested in hearing what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, thank you to them from me as well. It's definitely, like I said, being a fan of the club, to know that there's other fans of the club and are still interested in what I'm doing
Yeah.
despite not being on the roster anymore is, it's a little warm feeling.
Yeah, I mean, they love you, dude. You got a lot of questions. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that want to know your opinion.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
we had, and one more thing before I ask you the first question. We had Andres Imperiale last week, and even though it's been a few years since he's played, the fans still have love for him, and I feel like that translates to you and a lot of Quakes players, past and present, because you guys mean a lot to us. So
Yeah,
just
that's
keep
the
that in
culture
mind.
of the of the
Mhm.
of the of Quakes fans for sure.
Yeah, so the first one we have is from Davidson's SJ from Reddit. So he asks, given the current situation at San Jose Earthquakes, he wants to know if you think Wondolowski will play another season or not. Obviously, you're not Chris Wondolowski, but like it's one of those things where every fan has a thought in their head as to what's going to happen because we don't know.
Maybe Wando told he told Kevin what he was gonna do with his, last season. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
He gave you the
No.
secret combination.
No, I mean, I think I'm on the same boat as most when I watch Wando and I watch him just not ever stop scoring goals, and obviously this year is not hasn't been normal in terms of it being a regular season, but no, I mean, I think I'm on the same boat in terms of watching him and just thinking, well, if he wants to play, he still can. So
Yeah. So Mike Pizzo from Facebook asked, how much did your experience at the PDL Burlingame Dragons help you transition to your current role? And what is the biggest adjustment you had to make at this level?
I think during those times, more than anything, I've mentioned before, I came from Reno, where I just played club soccer while other guys were playing academy, and then my opportunity in college came at UNLV while other guys obviously were able to get scouted to, I don't know, this in that area was like the Stanfords, the Cals, and
Right.
you know, big schools, the UCLA. So at that time, my idea was I was gonna go play, you know, with some of the top prospects in the country, and just kind of prove that I belonged.
Sweet.
But you did
Go ahead.
did you play? You didn't play at Burlingame Dragons, right? That might be wrong.
Oh,
No, I played at Burlingame Dragons two seasons, or yeah, 2 seasons I think.
Oh, cool, perfect.
yeah.
Sorry, I was off.
Yeah, no problem. It's always nice to fact check while we have Kevin.
Yeah.
So John Jay from Twitter asked, what are the differences between the way Ian Russell and Matias Almeida tried to implement the man marking system during your times at each respective club? And this is also similar to a question Jeff Vikas on Twitter asked as well. We just wanted to acknowledge that, but we didn't want to ask the same question twice.
No, I think for the most part they're very similar. I think obviously there's gonna be a little nuances that different preferences that different staffs will want, and I think part of it is, you know, you prepare every week for a certain opponent. You know, you're not just doing the same thing for 34 games out of the season or
Right.
whatever it is, however many games it is this year. So I think the differences will mostly come there in terms of how you adjust for different opponents.
Okay. And then Matt at Matt3 Leo from Twitter asks, how has it felt to play during COVID? I know you went over a little bit about this, but how have you personally and the team stayed focused with everything that's happened this year around you?
Yeah, I think more than anything, we've just appreciated being on the field every day more. Obviously, we spent some time away, and I'm pretty sure most of the guys were itching to be back. So I think in the terms of mentality, I think at least from my end, I step on the field with a little bit more appreciation every day, and you know, makes me work a little bit harder for sure.
Okay. And then I guess what do you like about Ian Russell as your coach?
I think going back to earlier, it's just his mentality is you know, the guy doesn't like to lose, obviously, as most. I mean, I know nobody necessarily likes to lose, but this guy's really a
Right.
winner, and he wants to be competitive, you know, every day and every week. So I think that's something that really kind of gives the team energy when it comes time to prepare for games.
Definitely.
1 Pound Fish 356 on Reddit asks, right now the way MLS is set up, the teams that succeed and win MLS Cups, whether it be, you know, Galaxy, Toronto, Sounders, Atlanta, what have you, they have at least one or two key players that have had European experience. And right now the San Jose Earthquakes don't necessarily have those same level players and rely on Wondolowski, who is playing great, but he only has maybe another year or two left in his career. So how do you think the Quakes can compete with these teams given their different style of, you know, squad composition?
Yeah, I think obviously that it's pretty clear that the landscape of MLS has been changing a lot now. With, you know, you have your Atlantas and your Inter Miamis, which are becoming, you know, more common. But at the same time, you have, I don't know, you know, at the same time you have your FC Cincinnati's
Right.
and those expansion teams. So I think really it's just a matter of you know, knowing what direction you want to go in, and what, you know, what you want, I guess, what your stamp is going to be in the league, and just, you know, making it really official, I guess, and just, you know what I mean, like going picking a direction and really focusing on taking advantage of that, or doing it to the best of your ability as a club.
Yeah.
Right. And I think also in the MLS's back tournament, while one of the finalists, Orlando City, obviously had Nani, who made his name for himself in Manchester United, Portland Timbers ended up winning the tournament. And while they do have a couple star players like Blanco and Valeri, that they're a very solid unit with a lot of depth. And one last example, the Philadelphia Union is playing with a very young team that are achieving great things as well. So I do think that there's more than one way to succeed in MLS.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kevin, our fans are going to ask you to put on your owner hat and your GM and your coach hat a lot, all right? So
All right.
just be ready for it. So Robert at Epicenter on Twitter says, can you compare how you feel you developed as a player under Starre, Almeida, and now Russell? Did anyone's coaching style suit you the most?
Ooh. Yeah. Well, with Michael Starr, I think I always appreciate the fact that he gave me my debut. I think I felt like my style attracted him enough to give me a chance, and just having that confidence from the coach is and I had a couple personal talks with him where he really spoke to me like he cared about my future. So I
Awesome.
think I think that kind of confidence and relationship to have with the coaches is gives you a little something extra when you're on the pitch. And then obviously I started with Ian too, and I've been back and forth, and I've worked with him the most, I guess, out of those three guys. And I mean, he knows what he wants, and I kind of appreciate that as well. And his style, obviously, right now we're implementing the same system from top to bottom at the
Yeah.
club. But when it was his style and it was a little bit different, I really enjoyed the way that he put together that roster, and the types of players that I was able to have as teammates during some of those years were guys that I really enjoyed playing with, just because I felt like we really connected as players. And then
Yeah.
with Matias, I think he just obviously having his success as a player, and as a coach, he just really ingrains in you what it takes to be elite, and to be not just, I guess, world known, but to be the best player that you could possibly be.
Right.
So I think that part of it is what makes him special, in terms, well, one of the things that makes him special out of obviously a lot of virtues that he has.
So how did kind of getting that call up from Starhay kind of, how did that go down? Like, how did you know that he wanted to bring you in and debut you?
Yeah, so obviously I got drafted, and unfortunately I didn't get a first team contract early on in preseason. So I went to Reno and played maybe like 6-7 games. Or it took me about 4 games to make my first start or get my first minutes. And then the next 6-7 games I did well. And I was playing in the midfield actually, and I got called up to play right back in the Open Cup game against the Timbers.
Yeah.
I went in there, and really I just tried to implement what the coach asks of you, really, because I mean that's pretty much your job, I guess.
Right.
And I mean, luckily he felt like I could hold my own on the first team as well. And then things kind of moved quick from there. He told me on the plane that he would call me the next day, and actually that night he called. I talked to somebody at the club and said that I was gonna fly back to San Jose to sign with the first team.
Oh, wow. That must have been
Cool.
kind of like a dream come true, right? I mean, it happened so quickly. You didn't have time to really kind of grasp it.
Yeah, it definitely happens quick. And at that time, you're a rookie. You're just working your ass off, and things are moving fast, and you just feel like all your hard work is paying off. So yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
So Danufer on Reddit wants to know that right now the San Jose Earthquakes, they haven't really figured out who they want starting up front. They have options such as Andy Rios, Chris Wondolowski, who, while being the joint or probably still sole top goal scorer, is being mainly a super sub. Danny Houston, when he's fit, he's an option, and maybe even Cade Cowell could play up top. And given that even in the shortened season, there's only no Quakes player scored more than 3 goals, he wants to know, who do you think should start up top for the Quakes if you had to choose?
Oh man, well, like I said, I haven't. Unfortunately, the the whatever it is with the TV rights, I've been struggling
Yeah.
to watch the
Yeah.
majority of the games. But no, I think more than anything, it's the great part is that there's that much depth in the position, and there's a lot of options to pick from. So obviously, uh, sometimes not all guys are healthy, but just to have that ability to pick, I think is important for the team, depending on on obviously the opponent and what the setup of the team is going to be for a specific game.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge has been that some injuries have played a part, but also because of the frequency of games, not too many combination of players have had as many minutes together as there would normally be in a 34 game season where a lot of games are spaced a week apart. So I remember Favi a couple weeks ago, he mentioned that he'd love to see Wando and Vaco on the wing link up a bit more.
Yeah.
But I think if you ask each Quakes fan, there's a good chance that they might give you a different answer. So it's definitely something
Yeah,
to think about.
yeah, it's a
Kevin,
good point.
Kevin, was there anybody that when you practiced with the Quakes, you were just like, wow, like they're crazy, like that their skills are crazy, and kind of just left you at awe, and then they just couldn't translate it into the game? Was there anyone like that?
You said couldn't translate it into the game?
Yeah, I guess like some people say Danny Houston just has everything in the world and makes just the craziest goals during training, but then unfortunately when it comes to the big game, it doesn't translate as well. Was there anyone like that?
No, I don't think not necessarily. I think, um, well, obviously in training, I'm just trying to know the guy that I'm going up against and just see how I could get the best of him, obviously. But I think I think what I took away more was a little bit of the differences between each guy and just try to take a little bit and learn a little bit from each player.
Yeah, and you had to. I guess you had in front of you your man was Vaco a lot of times, right?
Right.
Did you know he was gonna cut like every time?
I thought I knew.
so 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 walk us through us. I mean that moment right when you're covering him, like how does he make it so that you think he's gonna do what he's not gonna do so well?
Yeah, I think part of it, what it is with Vaco is he's just so strong. So you could read what he's doing, and if you're lucky enough to do that, it doesn't necessarily mean you've won because he'll just shield the ball, obviously, with
Mm,
which he's so good at doing, and we'll just go the other way, or and at some point you might be biting
right.
when when you shouldn't be.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And
Go
then
ahead,
so
Fabi.
Andy on Twitter asks, since Kevin, you had your ACL injury when you played for the Quakes, how has your recovery gone, and have you had any more issues with it come up?
No, I think it was my second ACL surgery in the same knee,
Oh man.
so it took
Oh,
a little bit longer the second time around, but it all went well. Really, honestly, the care I got in San Jose with the training staff there was they pushed me harder than I ever thought I could be pushed, to be
Oh wow.
honest. And I think it really, I'm reaping the benefits now in terms of really after once I got cleared, I really felt like I was back to normal.
Yeah.
yeah. It looks like that the way they handled that situation, it showed that sort of belief that they knew you could come back stronger from this injury, and you're still going strong in your career. So I guess they were right.
Yeah, the level of care I got there was special for sure, and obviously I'll always be appreciative of that they stuck with me through obviously a time that had put some doubts in my mind.
Thank you, San Jose medical team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. OGFK on Reddit asks, what was your most memorable moment from your bobblehead game?
Uh, I mean, it was against Vegas, so I think it was a little bit funny in my head that I had just come from there, and I was getting a bobblehead on the night that we played them, but No, I think I don't know. I'm a little bit like shy in terms of those things, so I try to just focus on the game more than anything. But I think it was more after when my family and friends or fans had all received one and had them at their homes, and I go somewhere and they have a little guy there that it really sticks with me.
So
Oh
what do we have
man.
to do to get our hands on one? I mean, is there some on eBay? Like we
Oh
want to.
man, they might have been sold out.
Ah, it's like the hottest bobblehead drop of the year. What happened?
I mean,
Yeah,
knowing my family, if I were to ever have a bobblehead for whatever reason, they would be excited at first, but then maybe a few months from now, like they would use that as a way to make fun of me or something. Like, hey, they got your head right.
yeah.
All right. So Chico Earn from Reddit says, what is it like playing in near your hometown? I guess we kind of went over that a little bit. Do you get to see your parents often? Also, we already found out that your parents or your father follows Cruz Azul, so
Right.
we will skip that part. But do you
Yeah.
get to see your parents often?
Yeah. I mean, I chose to being back home this year. I chose to just stay. I had been gone for I guess 7 years now, so
Wow.
I chose to actually come back and live with my parents again and just spend a whole year together, which I thought was important for us as a family. And so obviously I get to see them every day. And in terms of football, just having them. Well, what I expected was to have them in the stands every home game, and
Right.
obviously that's been tough. But I still feel their support, on game day, or when I come home and when I leave and all that. So it's still been a big motivation for me for sure.
Could you get any of your family at the games at all, or they kind of just cut that off?
Yeah, at the moment, no, not even friends and family are allowed.
Oh wow.
Prior to the COVID shutdown, were they able to come out to a lot of games?
Our one game was actually away that we played before, so they didn't even get one home game this year. But I mean, obviously, I've been back and forth
Right.
with the club, so yeah, they've definitely caught. I mean, they catch every game that I get to come play here, so yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, good to have that support.
Yeah, definitely.
Cats_Quakes on Twitter asked, what was one of your favorite moments with Eric Cavillo visiting you in Reno, and fans enjoy keeping up with you two and appreciate the friendship you two have?
Yeah, I think obviously we hung out every day when he's here, and not only in training. So when it was time to just kind of catch up, we did that. Obviously, we were roommates as well, so we would when we would both play, we would travel together and spend do the whole trip together. Then at the beginning of this year, I got to see him obviously in our preseason friendlies and the first game he played with us. So being on the pitch with him, I feel like we both for sure kind of cherish that, just the fact that we've grown close and every once in a while get to be on the same pitch.
That's what's up. Yeah, a lot of our fans like to hear the bromance that y'all have. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're just like every time I post or we posted something about it last time and they got like a whole bunch of likes. They were like, "Oh yeah, dude, they like the best of friends." I don't know why, but
Hashtag friendship goals.
Yeah.
so
So, as hotel roommates, when you did travel together, was there any city in particular that you guys you went sightseeing or did something pretty cool?
I mean, we usually walk around a little bit depending on if we're in downtown of the city that we're in and just kind of look around. But no, more than anything, I guess is just obviously you have a bunch of downtime, so just joking around and stuff in the room.
Right, that makes sense.
any crazy stories from away games that like the days before, like you barely made practice the next day,
No.
Pedialyte running was going.
No,
No,
nothing.
he's a good person. No.
I left those days in college. I chose to be as professional as possible.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
you
good.
got it all out of your system in Vegas. What
Yeah.
happens in Vegas?
Yeah, and then
All
so we
right.
have another question. Dom from Quakes After 90. What do you think the biggest issue with the Quakes is at the moment? I know this is a little iffy if you don't want to answer it, but the owner, GM, manager, or something else.
I mean, I don't have the answer, obviously. I think as a fan, I'm just hoping that this last game is obviously a turnaround And like I said, I think having been there, I know how hard they're working. So when I think about them, all I think is hoping that that their hard work and it's just not just hard work. It's really intent that they have, to really
Right.
fix things, and they put in the hours. I know the players put in the hours, the coaches put in the hours.
Yeah.
So it really is just a matter of having that connection with them and really just hoping that it all works out.
Right. And I think from a fan perspective, it can be a little frustrating when there's not a lot of consistency and there's not a lot of transfers. And it seems like we can't understand what direction this club is heading. And for me, consistency doesn't mean you win every game, because it's impossible. It means you play in a consistent style where you can understand the games you win, the games you lose. Like when you're playing against a better team, or maybe a worse team that manages to outplay you on that day, you can live with those losses rather than the inconsistent results. But as we continue to talk with you players in these interviews, as well as just hear more about you guys, it changes the perspective in just wanting, like, oh, we got to transfer 5 or 6 people this transfer window, to realizing that it's not that simple, and that the players that are at the club, that they're just as frustrated with a poor run of form as we are, and
Right.
they are there for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely tough on the other side too.
Right.
So Freddie from Twitter asks, in what areas do you feel that you progressed as a player the most in the last few years?
I think just in terms of my professionalism, I think at a certain point you learn that there's just so many different things that matter to or that, I guess, that matter in terms of where your career is going to go. So I try to focus on my nutrition as much as possible, and prepare for every single session, and do the recovery and get to sleep, and all that stuff is what I think I've tried to implement the most throughout the last couple of years.
Okay. And then who from either the current or past Quakes roster during your time there was your biggest influence?
Biggest influence, I think, there's definitely a couple of names that come to mind. I think obviously training with Wando day in and day out. I'm sure at this point people who have followed him throughout his career know how passionate and how important it is for him to do his best every session, and that kind of sticks with you in terms of when you kind of realize why he is where he's at. And then in the early years, I think in terms of my position, obviously Godoy is a guy that being a player from Panama, and has been played for his national team, has made a career here in this league, is a guy that you kind of look to and see what he does exactly to kind of put himself in those positions.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then last question from all of us here at Tectonic Takes. Kevin, again, we appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this.
We actually have 2 more questions, actually, Fabi.
I'm sorry. I skipped over. I skipped over. My apologies.
Yeah, no problem. So King Babar from Reddit asked if training schedules had been impacted by not just COVID-19 throughout this season, but also any air quality issues. I know Nevada is a bit more inland than the West Coast, where this was most prominent, but we're just curious.
Yeah, it's a little bit bipolar, the air quality. Some days are clear and some days aren't, but we just gotta. There hasn't been a day where we've had to cancel practice or a game yet. Good. So in that sense, we just kind of worked through it. And then obviously COVID is COVID. I think everybody's world is a little bit different, but you just adjust as best as you can, really.
Right. And then lastly, Rossi 1222 on Reddit asks, which players on the current Reno squad do you think would do well given the chance at an MLS club, whether it be San Jose Earthquakes or any other MLS club?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's quite a few guys that could make the jump, and if I'm honest, at the end of the day, it's not as simple as just having the quality, but also finding the right fit in a sense. If you find
Right.
the right coaching staff, or you're in the right system and you're able to flourish. So I think, if I had to name some of the guys that are currently starting, I don't know, man. Really, I like all of them, honestly, now that I think about it. Our center backs are good. Jared Timmer is one guy I would point out because he's a rookie. And I think being a rookie at a USL team and just that way is just so hard to get your career started in that way. But he's done really, really well in and taken advantage of his opportunities. And so I'd like to just, I guess, kind of pick that guy out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared Timmer, for those who don't know, he is a 23-year-old midfielder, right?
He's a center back.
Okay, he's listed as a midfielder here for some reason, but we'll go by your word, center back. He came out of Butler, and he's played for a few lower league teams in Michigan before signing with Reno this season. So I'm excited to maybe watch him play next time I can catch a Reno game, now that you pointed him out.
Yeah, he's a good player. We also have Benji. Now that I think about it, Benji is a guy who was starting for us, and then unluckily got a little knock in his ankle, and has been coming off the bench the last couple of games. But he's a younger guy. He's didn't play his full 4 years in college, and so I think he might be 20 or 21. But he's a guy that lately I've had to mark a lot, and really gives me a lot of trouble, if I'm honest. And I really do believe that the Quakes are really, really, have an eye on him and are trying to, I guess, hone his skills and trying to develop him with the right time frame. So I think for fans, I think that Benji is a guy that they definitely should look forward to, and I think should expect to see in the MLS, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so Benji Kikanovic, he is a 20-year-old. He's from Sacramento, so a little bit behind enemy lines here with the Sacramento-Reno rivalry.
Yeah.
But he's an exciting player. Hopefully he'll get more opportunities, especially, since he did miss some time. But, yeah, now the more we learn about this Reno squad, not just the players that have spent time in San Jose Earthquakes, the more I get more excited to watch you more USL matches. And between living in a city in San Diego with a USL team, having gone to school at UC Davis, close by Sacramento Republic, the USL is definitely something that's been somewhat connected to me in many ways. So it is an interesting league.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it's a lot of fun when you can have, those kinds of connections and recognize clubs and players.
Right.
And then
so
to end off this interview, we're going to go ahead and we ask all of our players that we bring on, Kevin, are there any career goals that you would like to achieve before all is said and done?
Personally, throughout what I've experienced and, having my struggles and being where I am now, I think my goals have really been to have as long a career as possible. I think obviously you don't really miss it or you don't know how much you're gonna miss it, I guess, until you retire. So in my head, I just want to play as many years as possible, enjoy it as many years as possible, and obviously, and from a day-to-day standpoint, I just really try to improve and hope that my career goes in an upward trajectory more often than not.
Yeah. And then after, a little bit about retirement. Do you have a plan to kind of what to do after retirement? Do you know what you want to do?
Yeah, really, I just, at some point a couple years ago, I guess I kind of thought about that. I had my degree and I was thinking how I'd use it, and I realized, my, I guess, expertise in a sense has been football my entire life. I'm in love with it. I'm obsessed with this. So I just realized, I was like, well, I guess, I don't really have a choice but to start coaching after. So
Awesome.
hopefully that'll be another way to make a name for myself.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely. I feel like that'd be something you do very well in the way you think about the game, that you have a lot of great ideas and you have that perspective that you see the value in all the players that you interact with. And I think that's a very important trait to have as a manager, because you're not just, coaching soccer and trying to win games, but you're in the process of interacting with humans on a daily basis. And that level of people skills is very important.
Definitely, man. Thanks.
Yeah, and basically, are you sure you don't want to start a podcast about soccer? No,
Oh man, I would, but I don't want to be in competition with you guys.
nah.
I'd rather just come on every now and then.
That's what's up.
Okay.
We have a third
Yeah.
seat for you, bro.
All right, bro, for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah, we'd like to thank you. Thank you for coming on, and we appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thank you guys as well for reaching out, and once again, thanks for the fans. Thanks to the fans.
And
Yeah,
you can follow Kevin Partida on Twitter at _ KP19, not to be confused with his kit number, which is 89, right?
Yeah. I realized you can't change it, or they might take the verification away. So I didn't want to take that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so you might as well. Okay, I guess my Twitter number is 19, even if my jersey says otherwise.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you for coming on. Again, the Quakes fan love it when you interact with us, and they want to hear a little more about that Eric Kevin bromance, I guess, that's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man. Peace.
Yeah,
Take
no
care.
problem, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
You too, man. See you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a whole bunch of fun. Kevin was a great time on. Just a little bit of a little bit of what do they call it? Homework
Housekeeping. So
Housekeeping.
I'll go through the remaining MLS schedule and how that pertains to our podcast schedule in terms of covering the games. And if you want to mention anything else, you can afterwards.
Yeah.
So the next podcast that we'll be recording is on October 2nd. It will be recorded on October 2nd. So unfortunately, I will not be available because I will be traveling to the Bay Area and I will be visiting family. You'll
be here?
No, I won't be here, unfortunately.
You're not gonna come say hi to your boy out here in the peninsula? You're gonna come to the Bay Area and not even come out to say hi and meet me for the first time? God. Not even before I go to Japan? Messed up, man.
I'll ask my family to make a detour in Redwood City.
It's cool, man.
Yeah. But anyway, so instead of me, you'll be covering this LAFC game, this very rare, but hopefully won't be rare for much longer victory with Phil from Quakes After 90. That'll be exciting, right?
Yeah, I mean, Phil Leyva does a great job on that Quakes After 90 podcast. We had Dom on, and we had a fun time with him. But so I expect an even better time with Phil. No, I'm kidding, Dom. But I expect it to be a good time. I know we are big fans of that podcast, and they like to listen to ours and give us shout-outs. If you haven't, listened to that podcast already, we get a lot from them. They're kind of like the founders of this bluegrass movement, and we like to thank them all the time. And that's at Quakes After 90. And then we're at Tectonic Takes. So if you guys want to like us both, 5-star us on the App Store or the Apple Podcasts, we would greatly appreciate it. And then, Ivan, did you know what this next episode is? It's the first. This is the first. You know that?
Right. What is it?
It's the first win on our podcast.
Yay!
We're gonna go over the first San Jose Earthquakes win on this next podcast. So please come join us. It's gonna be a great time. We're gonna miss Ivan, but the show goes on. All right, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, and then after this week, the 3 of the next 4 podcasts will be covering 2 games in a podcast. So those will probably be a little bit longer. The exception will be on October 23rd when it'll just be covering the Sounders at home, which is also good news for the Quakes because that means they have a little bit more rest than usual. And then after that stretch in October, our first 2 podcasts in November will be covering one of the last 2 MLS regular season games. And maybe it's a little too soon, but who knows? If they have a few more wins left in them, that November 8th game against the Seattle Sounders might not be their last game of the season.
Right. We'll see what it comes down to. I mean, again, we are 4 points out of 8th place. So, baby, we're looking at playoffs. We're looking at bringing in some guys. Okay, come into the Tectonic Takes podcast.
9 games left, so 33 points up for 27 points up for grabs.
yeah. Quick maths, We need Kevin back on. But basically, this is gonna be a fun ride, guys. I mean, we are finally hitting our stride in podcast co-hosts. So if you want to come join us, we're basically getting it down to a schedule with every other Tuesday or every Tuesday, depending on how we book it. We're gonna have a player on, and then every Friday we're gonna usually have a podcast. And if I'm not here because I'm going to be moving to Japan, maybe Ivan's going to have someone else on, or vice versa. So we're definitely going to have one familiar voice on every time, if not two. But we would like to thank everybody. Again, we do have a Patreon. We're going to change up the scheme a little bit, but we want to let you guys know about it, but we don't want to force you guys into supporting us. I think we're going to change up the subscriptions a little bit. We're going to make it so that we release all of our Zoom videos with the players on our YouTube. So please check out our YouTube. And then we're just going to have a base subscribers if you want to, support our podcast and help us grow so we can do more things and have more players on and become a bigger media outlet for the Quakes that we all know and love. And some Reno, right? Some Reno, we can do that as well.
Right. So I believe that's all for now. Please look forward to the next podcast with Phil and Favi.
Right.
As much fun as it'll be there without me. I can't wait to be back the following week to cover whatever happens between the Galaxy and the Whitecaps games.
We're going to be on a win train, baby. It's going to be 3 wins in a row. So you better be ready, Ivan. You better have your game face. And I would like to give a special thanks to Kevin. Thank you for coming on. We're so grateful that he came on to our podcast, took time out of his day. So if you guys want to give thanks to him on his Twitter, he's very, active guy. He's a great guy. Please let him know. And then we would also like to thank the Beautiful Game Network for sponsoring us. Thank you for always uploading our videos or our podcasts and making sure that we are taken care of. All right, guys, this is everything from us today, and go Quakes.
Go Quakes.